leave them kids alone. Hey, teach us, leave them kids alone. All in all, it's just another break in the wall. All in all, it's just another break in the wall. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teachers leave them kids alone. Hey, teachers, leave them kids alone. Yeah. All in all, it's just another break in the wall. All in all, it's just another break.
Yeah, I gave everybody a couple minutes. Okay, I got notifications off and I've got the link up. I don't know why that didn't want to bring up, but we're going to go into it here. You can clearly see House of Commons. I haven't faked anything. You can see Parliamentary Session 43, Part 2, the FINA report, page 27. Everything is here. And this is the 27th page. So all those recommendations, we're going to get into what Pierre and the rest of them all signed, certified, and sealed in 2020. This is over COVID-19 now. This is the pandemic era and what they had planned for all of you. And this is at the point where they say nearly 20,000 Canadians have died. This is what they said in 2020. And this was June, July results. You can see it started as of January 28th, 2021. They went through what they figured, how many people have been diagnosed, and they say of that, over 20,000 died. They have all the provinces all articulated. Pierre Poilievre was the vice chair of this committee, signed, sealed, certified all of these recommendations by his handlers, his sponsors, and we're going to go through now these today for all of you. Right? So here's the people. He talks about the pandemic. It's all about socialize, entertain, work, study, and shop. This is all what he signed off on, what he believed in. And now he's trying to act like he's somehow a lover of freedom. He cares about all these things. Yet, during this time, just a year and a half ago, he had quite a different aspect altogether. Now, this is all on COVID-19, as you can see, pandemic, and what he wanted to see happen through finance. And as you guys know, he was the finance head underneath Aaron O'Toole, and he was the vice chair of this committee. So we're going to go through each one. It gets interesting when we talk about legal speak. Again, I'm going to say it for everybody. I say Treaty Indian because that is the legal speak in Canada. You'll find I'm backed up by the CRA. They say exactly the same language I use in my videos, which I find funny that it was Chief Justice Wagner who had all of that changed for all Canadians and all First Peoples. They use the term Treaty Indian, especially in Section 87. When it comes to your money, financial money, they say you are Treaty Indian. So we're going to go through these slowly here. So part 1, recommendation 1. And just so you know, I'm going to say again, before we go on all this, all the language used in Pierre Poilievre's reports here, this is all with NDP, Liberal, Green, Bloc, all of them. They use the language Indigenous and Aboriginal. Do you know why? folks, Canadians, third class, and First Peoples, especially the Treaty Indian. Do you know why they use that speak? Because it's not legal. UNDRIP is not legal. It was vetoed in the UN. It is only made legal by your ruling elite first class, people like Pierre Poilievre who wish to rob, rape, pillage, and plunder you, slave the third class, and destroy the savage Indian. That is the legal speak. You will find it in the only legal documents in Canada, the Indian Act 1876. Anything else is all bullshit. It's bullshit. It's Canada's bullshit. It's the divine first class taking advantage of you. So, recommendation 1, you guys, develop and implement a long-term mental health COVID-19 recovery plan and ensure all Canadians, especially the most vulnerable, can access the care they need no matter where they live. And how did that go, folks? How did that go with your loved ones? Well, you never got to see your loved ones. You were isolated from them. You had vaccine mandates and everything else. That's what Pierre Poilievre signed off on. And we can go into more of this. It's going to be multiple parts. I can't cover everything in one session. It's going to be multiple parts. So recommendation 2, now this again is signed off by Pierre Poilievre, who says he was totally into freedoms. Address gaps in the ability to monitor and manage public health risks at Canada's ports of entry, as well as the procurement of medical equipment such as testing and contact tracing equipment supplies. Vaccines and personal protective equipment through domestic production where possible or through more diversified international sourcing and stockpiling where needed. Folks, Stephen Harper set up China and Canada against all wishes of all Canadians. We teamed up with China on the vaccines. We lost all of the third-class taxpayer money. They went through that. It was an epic failure. We did not, as reported by CBC just this last month, entirely, it didn't happen. None of it happened. Pierre didn't see it through, and neither did the Liberal Party. The official opposition, Her Majesty, as Pierre was, and absolutely was, the financial critic, and he was in charge of this committee, and he didn't do a damn thing. He didn't do any of it, folks. And he wants to be your prime minister coming, and he will be. He will be. This is what he signed off on. This is what happened, whether people like it or not. Recommendation number 4, set national standards for long-term care facilities and make investments in both long-term care and in-home, including home, community, and institutional settings that will allow provinces to achieve a standard of care that will provide dignity for seniors requiring such care in Canada with proper accountability measures. How did that go, folks? How did our older population fare in COVID-19? Isolated, family not allowed to see them, locked away, many perished. That's what he did. That's what he oversaw. I didn't see him make any changes as head of this committee during that time. Now that it's over, folks, how did many of your loved ones fare long term? Well, many died alone. Many of you were not allowed to see them. Not if you went through massive hula hoops. Not if you didn't take vaccine shots. And he says he's all about freedom now, that he's not with WEF. He didn't care about any of this. Yet, he signed off on all of these things. Recommendation 6, implement strategies that increase resiliency and address inequalities of the healthcare system to safeguard Canada's social and economic security. Folks, right there, total bullshit. Health is of the provinces. He had no business making a federal strategy, listen, to increase resiliency and address inequalities of the healthcare system to safeguard Canada's social and economic security. How did that fare? all our procurement was through the states, through corruption of a company. We're watching one union. One union signed on here with Pierre Poilievre. That union boss is in a lot of trouble for the corruption that Pierre is attached to. But he is a first-class politician, lifetime Privy Council. He won't be taken down, but that union boss is being taken down right now. And we know that is Unifor. We know that's Diaz and his corruption with his union and what they did in procurement of those supplies. So Pierre's in here like a dirty shirt. Now, number 7, work in collaboration with provinces and territories to assist those jurisdictions in accelerating the deployment of technology and ensure availability of health human resources with appropriate training in culturally competent virtual care, meaning working from home, virtual care. How did that go for everybody in virtual care? How many surgeries canceled? How many people went without? And there's been a ton of problems since, especially in major stuff like heart surgery, cancer. Lots of people went through hell, absolute hell. He's in here like a dirty shirt, folks. Not innocent. Nothing that he says to you today is anything that man did well in the position holding that committee. He held it. This is all him. Recommendation 8, provide 2.5 million per year for 3 years, 7.5 million total, to sustain, scale, spread national reporting on cardiovascular care quality, as well as inform care delivery and management during and following the COVID pandemic. We all know many went without. All the surgeries are canceled throughout all the provinces. So what did he achieve? Nothing. Him and Trudeau achieved nothing. Recommendation 9, work with provinces to adequately fund palliative care. How did that go, folks? How many of you lost loved ones? You didn't even get to say goodbye. Recommendation 10, make home care and palliative care more available across the country. Was it, folks, or were you withheld from your loved ones? I'm pretty certain everyone I've talked to was withheld from their loved ones. You had to jump through so many hula hoops that most people were left alone and died alone. I've heard that over and over and over. And you believe that this guy is in with the convoy? I don't think so. He plays the game now that it's over, but what did he do? It's all listed right here when he had the power. Commit to paying 5%, ready for this, of the global funding needed for vaccine research, production, and deployment. Earmark $2 billion in 2021 federal budget for that purpose. And they did. And children, families, social policy. So he was in for children's vaccines. He was into procurement, which they lost in China. They lost the full $2 billion. They went over and above and then bought Pfizer and the rest of it. He was the one under Harper who pushed for China's vaccines. And they took the money and ran. It's in last month's program. Was the Prime Minister just as guilty? Trudeau, of course. But what were they running on? Pierre Poilievre as Privy Council under Harper's mandates as he signed off with China. Anyone can look this up. It's true. And right here, this is his committee, Vice Chair Pierre Poilievre. Open up part 1 and you'll see that he is signed, sealed, certified, chaired it. The Liberal left office. It was all Pierre Poilievre. 100%. 17, establish national standards for childcare. Create nationalized childcare system or increase funding for childcare. $10 a day childcare. Who signed off on it? Your official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, who's likely going to be the next Prime Minister. Is there going to be a change in what we see of Trudeau's policies? The answer is no. What he tells you and what he's promised to his handlers right here in writing are two different things. You will work as third class. You will pay for all child care. $10 a day child care. When I grew up with my children working, I averaged about $1,400. Now my children are growing up. I have to fund everybody else's children for their $10 a day child care, when mine was dramatically higher than that. Now that my kids are older, I have to go back and pay for everybody else's. Welcome to the third class slavery. Absolute socialism. Don't worry, First People, it's going to get more brutal for you too. Recommendation 18, in partnership with provincial, territorial, and are you ready? And indigenous governments, okay, implement a national early learning and child care system, including at least $2 billion for 2021 federal budget to address the early childhood educator labor shortage, provide funding to increase access to child care spaces, as well as supports to ensure new child care services are affordable for families. So UNDRIP and indigenous, because that's the word. And remember what I said here. This is not for treaty Indians, which is the legal speak. This is indigenous. This is to draw more children in the provincial level through the federal funding to take them off reserve away from treaty Indian families. That's what they're doing. This is no different than 60s Scoop. This is the scam. Here's Pierre-Paul Levere screwing over all the First Peoples and getting the third-class slaves to pay for the atrocity. It's right there. Save this one. Recommendation 18. So there is no end when you look at Truth and Reconciliation. The federal is administering it now through UNDRIP, through the provinces, to hide the genocide. And it's cultural assimilation. Don't kid yourself. Recommendation 19, provide financial supports to prevent COVID-19 outbreaks in sexual assault centers. The current support to which is inadequate and excludes essential agencies in COVID-19 that has made the life of women who are sexually abused or trafficked much more dangerous. Did COVID-19 end sexual trafficking? Was there any guarantee on any money here? Provide financial supports? Folks, they were defunded. Defunded. Where's the money here? A recommendation? There was no money. Women got it worse than ever in COVID-19. Worse than ever. That's a statistic here in 2022. You can look. Domestic sex trafficking and sexual abuse were never higher than they were last year. They didn't improve anything. And he didn't provide any kind of financial guarantee here. None whatsoever. Just great words with absolutely nothing behind it. Recommendation 20. Provide some financial support for victims of domestic abuse. Social housing, as many women who are victims of sexual abuse are unemployed with little prospects of employment and may not have access to child benefits. Social housing during the pandemic is very rare. And guess what? It never got any better, folks. In fact, all the access to any of Canada's services were rendered inoperative. They were all working from home. The phones were tied up. Again, the numbers are through the roof. They didn't provide anything. And we're, again, in this, provide financial support. What money? What money is earmarked here? There was none, no plan, none whatsoever. And again, Pierre-Paul Levere attached to it. Vice Chair. These are his handlers too. Trudeau and him. This is what they came up with. Pretty pathetic. And it's signed off by Pierre-Paul Levere. Recommendation 21, adopt a series of targeted personal income supports for groups in need, including Canadian living with diabetes, youth aging out of care, women fleeing violence, those who have lost income, who cannot work because they are sick and ineligible for employment insurance, EI sickness benefits, or are able and willing to work but are unable to secure employment. Guess what happened here, folks? And it's in right now, published fully this year. Recommendation 21. Again, no accountability, no earmark of money, and absolutely nothing in any ministry. This is what they put forward with nothing promised. It all went to the companies and it didn't go to the end user, the people in need. Not $1 went. It's in a report right now, 2022, showing the failure. Do you think that Pierre Poilievre is going to be any better than Trudeau? These two together pushed out all of this a year and a half ago, and we saw the results. Signed, sealed, certified by Pierre Poilievre. This was his job. He is educated, major in theater. He went to get a Bachelor of Arts, majored in theater. He has no economic background. He's worked a total of a year and a half in his life. He's been a career politician living on the tit of the Laurentian elite. Just like Justin Trudeau. Recommendation 22, reform the registered disability saving plan system to make it easier to access. Did it work out? The answer is no. Again, it's in 2022's reports. We have the worst numbers ever. And what reforms? It's a recommendation that what? Where's the bread and butter of it? Reform the registered disability saving system to make it easier to access. It wasn't accessed easier. There was COVID relief money that got abused and ripped off, leaving the taxpayers on the hook, but there was nothing designed. And what reforms? There's nothing listed here. Recommendation 23, uncouple the eligibility for disability tax credit and registered disability savings plan, RSDSP, so that individuals who are denied the DCT do not have RDSP government to contribute clawed back. And they were, and those people are still fighting. Did you know that? They never wrote or cemented anything. All fluff and puff. This is what you can look forward to under Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre. No different than Trudeau. And don't get me wrong here, folks. I'm only telling you that the Laurentian elite, this liberal conservative or liberal, there is no fixing Canada under a Justin Trudeau or a Pierre Poilievre. We're just going to go down the toilet. Number 24, make disability tax credit refundable. They never did it. Recommendation 25, invest $45 million over 3 years to strengthen Canada's anti-racism strategy and provide more capacity for community-led projects to combat racism. And you guys see it. This is Pierre Poilievre who signed off, and then he says he's angry about the recent bills that you're all upset about. He said and recommended and signed off for it. Look, it's right here. Anti-racism bill. And look what you got. Recommendation 26, extend old age security payments to the surviving spouse of a deceased individual to 3 months. And I believe they did increase that. That's only one they got. But at whose cost? And how many of these people actually worked a lifetime in Canada? When you look at immigration, you find out a pile of people are getting a pile of money that we had to print. We had to print. And he talks about he's angry at the Bank of Canada, but protect the pension funds of workers as privileged creditors by amending the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act and the Companies Creditors Arrangements Act. We know he didn't do that in 2009. It was the opposite, and they certainly haven't done it yet. They haven't protected the pension plans of workers. We've lost a pile of them. Now it's Indigenous peoples. See how it's not Treaty Indians? See how they say Indigenous peoples, non-legal Indian people. That's what they're saying. Recommendations. It's a way of the government of screwing you over. Support Indigenous people communities and businesses dealing with COVID-19 pandemic by increasing financial assistance support for Indigenous peoples living in urban and off-reserve environments. I don't know anybody who got that. Develop public policies. The businesses did. But they never pushed it through to the Indigenous employees that they call them. Had they used the term Indian under the Indian Act, you would have had some accountability. You would have had a legal system to follow. But they said Indigenous on purpose because UNDRIP isn't legal. It's only legal if the government says it is. Developing public policies which take into consideration the needs, again, of Indigenous peoples living in urban and off-reserve environments. What were they? Nothing. Zero. That's their way of saying something but giving you nothing. Because, again, Indigenous isn't the legal word. Addressing the disparities faced by Indigenous peoples in areas of housing, access to clean drinking water, access to personal protective equipment, food insecurity, health, Medicare, and transportation. Why don't you ask Inuit how that's worked out for them? Again, Indigenous. And guess what? You'll find there's never been as much food insecurity and lack of housing as there was in COVID and is today. They're in worse shape now than they were when they published this bullshit. Supporting the Indigenous businesses by ensuring continued access to government financing programs such as the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which did go to all the businesses, and whether it was Indigenous or non-Indigenous second-class Canadians loyal to the Crown, they got all the money and they didn't provide it to the employees. If you registered as Indigenous, you didn't get anything more or less than anybody else. Implementing health protocols for Indigenous communities who are unable to conduct screening tests for COVID-19. And again, it was all corrupted. They procured those from the U.S. We didn't make those here. We didn't manufacture here. We know this. It's all published this year. Cost a shitload of money, and it filled the pockets of a whole bunch of corrupt handlers. All the handlers that supported Pierre Poilievre, who were signed on to this. And we're going to go through that. We're not done. It's going to be many, many more parts here, folks. Providing financial support to Indigenous communities who rely on tourism and have suffered from the effects of the pandemic. Indigenous. How many treaty Indian nations? No, when they say Indigenous, they're talking about Banff, Jasper. Public Crown land, federal Crown land, not Indian reserves, taken by the federal government. Indigenous people, what did they get? Nothing. The businesses owned by the government who robbed the third class and blame it on Indigenous people who you think are Indian, but they never got any of it. It's a 22 report. You find out the overwhelming lie. And again, where does Pierre provide any kind of accountability here? Nothing. And then they use the word Indigenous, which isn't legal in Canada. UNDRIP vetoed in the UN. A complete lie. Which is what he took a page out of Trudeau's book, Harper's book. Recommendation 29. Address the ongoing priorities of Indigenous communities by increasing financial support for programs earmarked for Indigenous government activities. Example, the Band Support Funding Program. Well, what was that? I've looked that up. There isn't any. I haven't seen any other monies except what was extended to Canadian federal employees and Indian agents. I didn't see the reserves get anything, only procurement of vaccines and support to push them out. And again, it wasn't Indigenous people. It was federal government employees, service sector, including all Indigenous groups in decision-making processes concerning the future allocation and distribution of government resources, as well as the deployment of public policy. I would like to hear from one chief who says they had any ability to do any governance beyond a municipal level as a councillor. Again, the power of a province removed entirely. All fluff and puff. Immediately allocating substantial government funding to Indigenous communities to combat child poverty and improve healthcare services. Yeah, right. More like scoop, which has been transferred to the provinces. Again, no federal power to do such a thing. A big fat lie by Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau. And again, everybody, this is signed, sealed, certified by Vice Chair Pierre Poilievre. You can find him there. He's signed. We're going to continue to go through this. Opposite of everything he says is right here in writing. What he did, and he says, "Oh, I'm not like that anymore. I've changed. It's been a year and a half. I've changed. I've seen the error of my ways." I don't think so, people. He's been this way since absolutely 2008, all through Harper and the massive socialism, the massive government rape of the taxpayer, all the way till today. He hasn't changed a bit. He is no different than one Justin Trudeau. And people are going to find out the hard way, just as they found out from Alberta. Albertans pushed Harper through. Harper destroyed Ralph Klein, went on to destroy Alberta, and lied to all those who supported him and went the opposite direction with Canada. Look at he signed off with China. Addressing the public security needs of Indigenous communities who do not have access to policing services. And what did they do? They put police at the entrance and exits of many reserves, close to highway access or close to cities. And then they would harass the patrons of the reserves. I mean, it was good in a sense that they kept people off of reserves, I suppose. Maybe less people snatching Indigenous women, but we'll have to see those numbers. There was that, but I know that those on reserve had a hell of a time. Hell of a time. There was imposed quarantine, lockdown, absolute. You must be back on the reserve at 9. Checking for impaireds, searching those on and off the reserve. I heard a lot of people saying it was like being under house arrest on the reserve. And I believe that. I've even seen videos. Ensuring there is sufficient affordable housing units for Indigenous peoples, such as providing already an additional 10,000 units for Indigenous communities in Quebec. Do you get what I've been saying about UNDRIP? It's to make the French First Peoples. They're trying to give the French people the same system as First Peoples of Canada, which is wrong. They're of the colonial world, completely wrong. And that is your Pierre Poilievre already appealing to Bloc, looking for the votes, already selling his soul. He's already doing it as he was through Harper. That's what Harper did. And Trudeau does too. Trudeau loves Quebec. But you see how it's Quebec? Why is the rest of Canada somehow less? Why is it different? Like, especially in Saskatchewan and Alberta and Northern Treaty, why are them without water and real housing? Why are they not factored in? Because they're not worth shit. They don't have a vote that matters. Albertans don't have a vote that matters. You're a less citizen to begin with. You're lower voting class. And absolutely all treaty Indians are. It is the worst for all numbered treaties in Canada. And you can see it right here in the payoff. In the payoff right there. 10,000 units in Quebec. I don't see anywhere else. Do you, folks? Somehow Quebec's more important than numbered treaty? I don't think so. Go to Treaty 7, the poorest reserve would be the blood reserve in Canada. Third largest reserve, poorest reserve. Who needs the housing? They don't get it? Give me a break. Recommendation 30, immediately ensure a supply of tap drinking water for all Indigenous nations in Canada. Indigenous nations. Guess what, folks? That's not Treaty Indian, that's Indigenous. The unlegal term. Good luck getting clean drinking water. See how they just copped out? The term Aboriginal and Indigenous aren't the legal speak in Canada. And I can tell you, any lawyer of credibility will tell you, absolutely, as Chief Justice Wagner changed the CRA, that the legal speak in Canada, which is backed up in smudge and song for all First Peoples, is Treaty Indian, Inuit, and Métis. If they're not using those legal speak words, it isn't fuck all. It's a lie. And there is, just like Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, giving you wordsmith science. Basically a lie, a promise of nothing. Number 31, expand Indigenous physical powers to include sales, resources, tobacco, cannabis, excise, income, or taxes. Guess what, folks? Expand Indigenous physical powers to include resources. Tobacco, cannabis. Guess what? Those three items are provincial. They're not privy of the federal government. That's why they use the word expand Indigenous physical powers. So that you cannot have sales, resources, tobacco, cannabis, excise, or your own income, or any taxes. You can't, because it's a provincial power. Now, the federal government could, in some of these, but they would have to say Treaty Indian. They'd have to say Treaty Indian or Métis or Inuit. Those three words have to be in there, or guess what? It's sweet fuck all. It's a lie. A Pierre Poilievre lie. A Justin Trudeau lie. A Jagmeet Singh lie. And Elizabeth May lie. This is your great government. The biggest 100% liars ever. And Pierre Poilievre chaired, as vice chair, signed, sealed, and certified this off. And you're telling me that that man a year and a half ago sponsored, and we'll go through it in more parts. We're going to go through all of those who backed him up and backed up as the official opposition leader and the financial committee chair, sitting chair, the Privy Council member who signed this off. This is him and all his handlers, with Justin Trudeau, sure, with Elizabeth May, with other Liberals, Conservatives, all of them. He signed it off. And you're telling me that he's changed over a year and a half? Doesn't look like it to me. Recommendation 32, commit to Indigenous-led conservation by expanding support for existing and new Indigenous guardian initiatives and Indigenous protected and conserved areas. If it doesn't say Crown land federal or provincial, and again, Treaty Indian, Métis, or Inuit, it's not going to happen. A big, fat, fucking lie. Folks, we've come to this part of the video. It's been an hour I've put into this. We're going to call her a day there. We're going to stop at recommendation 33 just to show you this is how much we have to go through. Look at this. Look at it. There's still more than 100 to go through just in the COVID bullshit. Never mind all of this. Look what he wrote up with his community. Look at it. All the meeting minutes, all of it. Now, I'm not going to poison everybody with it, but I wanted you to know the main bread and butter of COVID-19 and where Pierre was a year and a half ago. And you're going to tell me he's a big convoy guy, or is he another Aaron O'Toole liar? Because, folks, what they put in writing and what they say are two different things. What do you think is legal? What they put in writing or what they say? Because I can tell you right now, anyone in business, anyone in any dealings in life, you all know it's true. If you've got a lease, a mortgage, a loan, or property, it's what you have in writing. Not what somebody shook hands and said to you. Not in what they say, but what you can prove in writing in a court of law. Is Pierre Poilievre anything but a liberal, left-leaning stooge? A liberal conservative, as always what is. It's always what's in writing. This is what he wrote and chaired. And I see Robert David Lang, strong businessman, strong conservative. Robert, you know, I couldn't make this up. And we're going right back up, guys. Right here. There's the Parliament of Canada. His report, look. FINA report 43, session 2. And if you want to know, he signed off on it. He's the chair. I can't make it up. At the end of it all, he signs it off. That's my video. Share because it's the right thing. Share as a third-class Canadian who has to always pay for the bullshit, the lies, the thieving, the raping, the destruction. Share because Indigenous isn't the legal speak. There's more. As we go, we'll get into Aboriginal. I ran out of time today. We're going to have a part 3 in a couple weeks, and we will go on and on and on every couple weeks. And you will know the truth of what he is, who backs him, where it all comes from. It's easily found because the government has to always release it to you. That is constitutional law. What he's done and what he's put in published writing has to be shared to you. They just put it in the back row, hoping nobody goes through this stuff. Here we are at the end of COVID. Is he the warrior, the savior you all think he's going to be? Or is he another Laurentian elite stooge, lying, cheating manipulator, allowed to rape, pillage, and plunder you? As all divine politicians in Canada constitutionally are. Because, folks, they're the only ones listed in the Constitutional Act of Canada and all its 11 amendments, 212 pages. Not you, the people, not you, the second class, not you, the third class, not you, the Treaty Indian, not you, the Métis, and not you, the Inuit. You are either a savage or a slave. Not my words, but what they've put in writing and in the highest laws of our country. I couldn't make it up if my life depended on it. Share because it's the right thing to do. Share because you want to educate people. Thank you. Part 2, many more to come. Bye now.